too.
Hello out there in YouTube land. Rival here. Thanks for stopping by. Got a quick review for you on the turntable this week. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about a service that some folks entertain and some folks don't, but I never really had the opportunity to test out some reground knives, and I don't really do that myself. Still in the process of kind of learning how to just, grind my own primaries and bevels and stuff like that, and just, enhancing my skills. So taking an already ground knife and really refining it takes a lot of skill. So a gentleman on the forums known as razoredgeknives, he's active on Blade forums and on USN. He does offer some regrind services, and I've seen pictures of his work before, and it's always been immaculate. And he offered up the opportunity to do a pass around to put some of his work to the test. So you see here just a plain Jane Rat 1, but there are two things that are quite different about it. So first off is it's a Cerakoted blade. He does the Cerakoting himself as well. Not quite as tough as DLC, but it is a great overall coating. And when it wears in, it does, kind of have a cool look to it. It gets a nice patina of its own, if you will. And then the Rat 1 you're probably familiar with is a very inexpensive, everyday carry style knife. Drop point. Well, this one's reground into a Tanto. And it's got a full flat grind that he put on there. And a really nice Tanto tip. Really fine edge, as you can see. So this is Aus 8 steel, nothing super spectacular, not, hardened any more so than any other Aus 8 steel. It's a good, intermediate kind of steel. You don't want a El Cheapo that's going to break on you, crack on you, or wear so quickly that you got to sharpen it every morning. Aus 8's a good all-around steel, but for the most part, if I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting, processing a lot of cardboard, doing a little bit of outdoor stuff, things like that, I'm probably not going to have Aus 8 in my pocket. I might toss it in my pocket if I just want something to kind of beat on and I don't really plan on doing a whole lot of work to it, those kinds of things. Every day, around the home kind of stuff. But this one, we put through some paces a little bit. You can see there's definitely some wear going on the Cerakote. This thing processed a crap ton of cardboard for me, and the overall performance I was extremely impressed with. I'll have some pics at the end of this to show you just how much cardboard it processed, but basically I had bought a new workbench, an island. You saw in my video about, I think 2 videos ago, my shop update video. It's a pretty decent size. So the cardboard itself was about 40 inches long by about 40 inches wide, so big squares. It wasn't double ply, but it was extremely heavy duty corrugated cardboard. And what I did was I cut that into strips lengthwise, so along the corrugation, and then I cut those and processed them even further into smaller squares until I had everything cut up into like little squares like this big. It took about 20 minutes or so. Any other Aus 8 steel knife that I would have put that same test through, I have done it with my Boker Quaken. It takes forever, and about halfway through you start tearing the cardboard more than you're cutting the cardboard. Your edge is kind of providing a place for it to rip along. But the angles on this knife, and I don't know exactly what they are, but they are much thinner than the original profile, as you can see from the plunge. There's a very fine point, and the cutting edge it's fine enough to do very delicate work, but it still has a decent support behind it. But I can't really macro on this, and I apologize for that. But I'm extremely impressed with the edge performance. And I want to take a moment to talk, or just kind of distinguish performance from edge retention. It's Aus 8 steel, so a regrind is not going to give it more edge retention at all. But what it is going to do is, by properly cutting something, it's going to reduce wear on the blade, and it's going to allow it thereby to retain the edge longer simply because it's being worn less. If it's able to kind of make the initial cut or split and then continue that cut down in an efficient manner, you're going to reduce wearing, rolling, chipping, and things like that. And this thing did exactly that. Like I said, I processed a ton of cardboard with this knife. I would expect to have needed a sharpening or a touch-up after that amount of work. If I were to put my LMAX or my M390 through it, not a problem. But what I'm really impressed about, and I want to take a second to show you, is this. I have not resharpened this yet. I'm about to send it to the next guy in the pass around, but I have not yet resharpened it. So this is the exact same. When I finished processing the cardboard, this is the edge is as it was at that moment in time. Got a little phone book paper. As you guys know, if you don't have a damn sharp edge, you're not really going to cut the thin phone book paper. And after processing all that cardboard, I'm still just... It's not hair-popping razor sharp, but it's sharp enough to be able to cut down that phone book paper. You're getting a couple of catches in there, but cheese and rice, man. Rarely do you get Aus-8 sharp enough to be able to do this anyways. So I was extremely impressed with that when I started doing a couple of sharpness tests after I had processed the cardboard. And that really shows you how well the edge is performing, how well that slicing ability is performing. The other test that I put this thing through was a couple of apple tests. So just taking an apple, cutting it, 1, 2, and then into quarters again, so eight slices. But with the first 2 cuts is really going to tell you the most about a knife, because it's going to do one of 2 things. It's going to slice evenly all through that apple, and it's going to cut really well. It's going to go through the core without issue, and it's going to separate both halves. Or you're going to get about halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way down that apple, and it's going to split apart just from pressure. You don't want that. Sometimes that results from having a too thick of a blade, but most blades that are at or below 1/8 of an inch, you can do a good slice test if you have the edge ground and the overall profile ground properly. But if you've got a steep angle and it only goes halfway down the blade, it's not, it comes to such an abrupt point that it's going to split that apple. For example, this knife, it don't cut apples, it splits apples. It's because it comes to, the angle here is so steep, it's going to split that thing apart, and then the pressure is just going to pop those 2 halves open. So that's another test that I like to just test, kind of gauge slicing ability. You can also just start slicing, at the edge of the apple and go all the way over and just see if you can kind of, slice it like a tomato or something like that. That's going to give you a good idea whether or not it's slicing or splitting as well. But overall, I'm extremely impressed at the performance that this, like $35 knife now has. If you were to engage his services or interested in doing something with a more substantial knife, maybe a Reeve or maybe a like a Chavez or something like that, some of those new mid-techs, whew, I bet you the performance you're going to get out of those is going to just be insane. As far as pricing, reach out to him, let him know what you've got. Pricing is going to vary depending on what you want. If you want it to go from a drop point to a Tanto, if you want to have, like a hollow and a flat or full flat or whatever you're looking for. So reach out to the guy. I'll put his contact information at the bottom in the description here. Razor Edge Knives is his name. But the pricing was very reasonable. I reached out to him and I asked him a couple of questions. He got back to me really quickly. And the prices that he said for some of his service was extremely reasonable, especially now that I know what you're going to get out of that. So if you've been thinking about regrinds, if you got a couple of knives that you want to just kind of touch up, spice up, or whatever, he is a fantastic gentleman to be your guy. So Razor Edge Knives, I'm extremely impressed at the Tanto Regrind on this Rat 1. That's what I got for you for now. Thanks for stopping by. Got more review videos in the pipeline, and then I've got 2 customs of my own that I'm putting finishing touches on, so those are going to be coming up in the next, hopefully, week. I want to finish them over Labor Day weekend, get them out to my customers. But I appreciate all your support. Like and subscribe below. Thanks. Peace.